Okay, let's jump right in. We're going to be talking about a brand new category of B2B software that is kind of quietly, completely changing how companies sell, how they consult, and even how they plan their own growth. It's all about moving away from guesswork and getting a real data-driven diagnosis of business health. And the reason this matters so much, it comes down to this number, $3 trillion. That's the projected global market for digital and AI transformation. It's this massive, massive wave of change, and pretty much every company out there is trying to figure out how to ride it. But that leads to the million-dollar question, or I guess the $3 trillion question. With so much on the line, how does a company actually begin a transformation journey? Without a clear, objective starting point, you're essentially just guessing. You're throwing money at problems you don't even fully understand. And this is where the business maturity assessment comes in. The easiest way to think about it, it's like a GPS for your company. It's a structured way to look at everything, your people, your processes, your tech, and it scores you on a scale. So instead of vague feelings, you get an objective baseline. It tells you exactly where you stand from, level 1, which is basically ad hoc, all the way up to level 5, which is fully optimized. Now, to really get why these new platforms are such a big deal, we have to look at the old way of doing things. And let me tell you, it was a manual, slow, and super expensive grind. The whole process was just completely broken. So the old process, wow, it was painful. You had to tie up your most expensive specialists for like 20 to 40 hours for just one of these things. They do all these interviews, manually crunch all the data, and then spend weeks writing a custom report. And by the time it was done, it was basically a static, non-interactive PDF, already a snapshot of the past. It was just incredibly slow and impossible to scale. And here's the economic reality of that. When you tie up your best people like that, they can only pump out maybe 1 or 2 of these assessments a month. That makes the cost astronomical. It completely prices out the very businesses that need this kind of insight the most. Okay, but here's where the game completely changes. Just look at these numbers. The time it takes to create an assessment drops from 40 plus hours to just a few minutes. A consultant's capacity, it jumps from maybe 15 assessments in a whole quarter to over 200. But the most staggering number here is the cost. It plummets from thousands of dollars per report to under $20. That is a fundamental shift in who can access this. So, here's the crucial point. This isn't just about being more efficient. This technology creates what you could call a super qualification engine, and it fundamentally upgrades how companies interact with their customers from that very first touch point all the way through to long-term success. For marketing teams, this is a total game changer. I mean, instead of offering some generic ebook, they can give away a free, super valuable diagnostic assessment. And the people who fill it out, they aren't just marketing qualified leads. No, they're what we're calling super qualified. And why? Because they've actually invested time and given you this rich, detailed snapshot of their problems before a salesperson even has to pick up the phone. Then it goes to sales. And this means no more of those generic, boring discovery calls. The very first conversation is a strategic, data-driven consultation based on the assessment's results. This alone speeds up deal cycles by up to 50%. Plus, the professional report you generate becomes a tool that the buyer can actually use to sell the idea internally to their own team. And it doesn't stop when the deal is closed. For customer success teams, these assessments are pure gold. You can reassess a client a year later and show them with hard data exactly how much they've improved. That kind of visibility boosts retention by up to 25%, and it naturally uncovers new opportunities for upsells and expansion. This quote just perfectly nails the whole shift in thinking. The entire dynamic gets flipped on its head. Instead of a salesperson trying to convince a prospect that they have a problem, the prospect literally diagnoses their own challenges. The whole conversation changes from persuasion to collaboration. It's a huge deal. So we've seen how it works. Now let's look at the size of the opportunity here. Because this isn't some niche little tool. It's a rapidly growing market category, and there's some serious money behind it. This chart breaks down the numbers really nicely. So the total market for all these kinds of assessment services is over $25 billion. The slice of that for the software itself is over $6 billion. But the sweet spot, the immediate market that these new AI platforms can grab right now, that's a very significant $1.8 billion. And this market didn't just pop up out of nowhere. You can see the steady, powerful growth right here. I mean, it's more than doubled in just 4 years, jumping from 1.2 billion to 2.5 billion. A lot of that was driven by that massive shift to digital and remote business we all went through. Now, looking ahead, the trajectory is even more impressive. This core market is projected to grow from 1.8 billion today to over 4.2 billion by 2030. That's a compound annual growth rate of over 18%, which is just a fancy way of saying this thing is growing like a weed, and it's still in the early stages. So what's pouring fuel on this fire? Well, it's a few powerful trends all hitting at once. The cost of creating AI-powered analysis has absolutely plummeted. Remote selling is just normal now. Sales leaders are demanding hard data, not just gut feelings. And maybe most important, clients themselves now expect you to come to the table with real intelligence about their business. So all of this brings us to the future. What's next for these platforms? Because honestly, what we're seeing right now is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the beginning of a much bigger shift in how we diagnose and, well, treat business challenges. The roadmap here is just incredibly exciting. We're moving from a static, one-time snapshot to a continuous predictive model. I mean, imagine systems that can predict a company's future maturity score, or autonomous AI agents that can conduct discovery conversations for you. The end game is a full-blown marketplace, creating this network effect that connects experts with the businesses that desperately need their help. And that leads us to this final really provocative question. As these AI platforms get better and better at automating the diagnosis and even at generating the strategic roadmap for how to improve, what's left for the human expert? It really suggests a future where expertise is less about the manual analysis and more about interpretation, about strategy, and about building the relationships needed to actually drive real change. A pretty fascinating thought to end on.